Chatting with Zach Smith, Menace to Sports. If Indiana loses this game, obviously all of the talking points have been, well, does the 11-1 in the Big Ten against not a great schedule outside of the Ohio State game? Does no ranked wins, out of conference, just terrible. Does that deserve to get in over a 10-2 SEC team that has played a tougher schedule, has more quality wins? Just yes or no. If Indiana loses this and they cover, or, it's a 13-point loss on a 13.5-point spread, so they play it relatively close, do you think they get in, or do you think a two-loss SEC jumps them?
No, I think they'll get in. There's two different conversations to have here, right? The first is, should they get in? I believe the best 12 teams should go. And if you tell me a 2-loss Georgia team or a 1-loss Indiana team, from what I've watched, that 2-loss Georgia team's a better football team. But I also believe that if you lose 2 games, your voice is gone. Like, you have nothing to say. You lost 2 games, and in previous years, if you lost 1, you were praying to God that you would make the playoffs. Now, if you lose 1, you're in. And if you're an SEC, any of these conferences, you're a 1-loss team, you are in. So if you get that second loss, you can miss me with the schedule conversations and all that. And the other side of this is, if we're going to talk about Indiana like this, we have to talk about Texas like this, because I know they're in the SEC, but they have played absolutely nobody except for Georgia, and they got boat raced at home. So I think that conversation is a valid conversation. Should Bama get in? Should Georgia get in with 2 losses? Or even Bama goes to the SEC championship and loses an extra game that Indiana didn't have to play. Should they get in? If you're going to put the best teams in, then Bama belongs in. But we have to hold that same exact argument to Texas, because their quality win, if they win it, is going to be A&M. A&M has not played anybody except for Notre Dame in a loss. And they lost to South Carolina, and now if they lose to Texas, A&M does not deserve to be ranked. That is not a ranked win. So Texas is going to have a pretty similar conversation, because right now Texas's best win, Michigan. Indiana's best win, Michigan. So it's like, as long as we hold Texas to the same standard and don't just brand associate, I think that's a valid conversation, because I want the best 12 teams in. I don't give a shit. Now, if you're undefeated, you should get in. Like what happened to Florida State last year should never, ever happen again. But you lose a game or 2 games, sorry. Like, there was a day in the BCS era where undefeated teams didn't make it in. And I felt bad for them. So I've always felt you control your destiny. You put your fate into another man's hand by losing a game or 2. That's on you.
What's going to be interesting is, like, somebody's going to have hurt feelings, and one of the 2 commissioners is going to have hurt feelings, either because the Big Ten doesn't get their 4th team in, or because the SEC doesn't get their 5th or 6th, or however it ends up working out. And so it's so hard too, because if they truly are putting the best teams in, like you mentioned, like a team could go, like Alabama could go to Atlanta and lose that game, and still, you would say Alabama's probably still, unless they get blown out or something, Alabama's still one of the best teams. And so how do you balance the results on the field? How do you balance the eye test / resume? How do you balance like best versus most deserving? And the honest answer is there is no perfect way to balance this.
No. And there's always going to be an argument, right? There's always going to be an argument. You go to 32 teams, that 33rd team's going to be like, we played harder people.
Are you looking to up your game in sports betting? Meet OddsJam, your ultimate ally in the world of data-driven wagering. With over 260 sportsbook under its belt, OddsJam is the go-to platform for savvy bettors. Here's how it works. OddsJam's arbitrage tool scans the market in real time, spotting differences in betting lines across various sportsbooks. This means you can lock in risk-free profits by betting on both sides of the market. But that's not all. OddsJam also provides positive EV calculators to optimize your bets and a handy bet tracker to monitor your profits. By using OddsJam, you're not just betting smarter, you're betting responsibly for long-term profitability. And here's the kicker. They offer a 7-day free trial. Ready to give it a shot? Use code CFA, that's College Football Addiction, for a 35% discount on your first payment, either monthly or yearly. Secure your bets with confidence and make informed decisions with OddsJam.
It's like nobody cares. I think the sad part, and I've been excited. I'm with you. I didn't want to go to 12 teams. Once they did it, I was like, screw it. I get it. You can lose a game or 2. Like, the playoffs are going to be incredible to watch. And the one most disappointing thing that came of this, the byproduct, having been a coach that coached in the SEC championship, in the big, like those championship games were so cool. Like I mean, I'm getting chills thinking about you walk into an NFL stadium, your hardware is on the line. You're going to get a ring if you win and potential playoff berth. Like that's all gone. Now these SEC teams, they're like, please God, don't make us go to Atlanta. Like if we don't go, we're in the playoffs for sure.
And they're
like,
admitting it. Like it's not just a whisper. Like Lane's like, nah, dog, we don't want to play.
Right, Lane. I mean, leave it to Lane Kiffin. He speaks his mind. He's like, no, I talked to other coaches. We don't want to go. Like I don't want to play that game. And it's sad because those games used to be so important. I mean, we saw it last year. Bama goes and plays Georgia. Guess what? Not only are you going to win the SEC, but if you win, you're going to make the playoffs. Whoever loses doesn't win the SEC, doesn't get a ring, and doesn't go to the playoffs. Yeah. That shit was high stakes poker. Like who wasn't signed up to watch that game?
Yeah,
it's just unfortunate. It's an unfortunate byproduct of the landscape, I guess.
Yeah, I think fans thought, I watched this on another show today, but I think fans thought like, oh, we'll go to the 12 team and this will give the little guy like an Indiana or like BYU's going to get in if they win anyway, so it doesn't matter. But it'll give the little guy, and I don't really think that's what the playoff was set up to do. It wasn't to give like the little guys who win 11-1 or 12-0 a chance. Now, again, you go 12-0, you're getting in. But I think it's more set up to give the Georgias that stumble and the Texases that stumble and Bama's and all these other teams. Ohio State picks up their second loss to Indiana. They still get in. They pick up their second loss to Oregon. They still get in. And that's, I think people had the wrong perception of what this 12-team playoff was going to be.
Oh yeah. Oh, this was all to get two big brands matched up against each other as many times as you can with players playing. I think players sitting out of bowl games is what really drove it. Yeah. Because you had Georgia, Florida State. No one cared. Florida State's whole team sat out. Yeah. It was like, no, well, why would we watch that? But if you put Keon Coleman and the boys in that game, oh, I'm tuned in.
Sure.
Like they just wanted that to happen and for it to mean something. So now you're going to get Ohio State, Bama, Georgia, Oregon, Texas, Ole Miss, and like who's not watching that?
Right.
It's just more dollars. That's all it was.
Yeah. And bowl games are an absolute travesty. And I do think that's accurate. Like the top 12 teams, those are the guys that would be sitting out anyway, because they got the first round draft picks. They got the guys that are trying to protect themselves. So if they weren't making the playoff, they would be the ones, like you said, Florida State sitting out, Brock Bowers sitting out last year, other things. And so you've eliminated that. And then if you're like ranked 20th, like how many first round draft picks do you have that you're protecting for next year? Right. Or for April's draft. Okay, so last one on this. Indiana gets in, and there's one SEC spot left. And it kind of goes down like we think it will. Who gets in between Tennessee and Ole Miss?
I mean, I think Ole Miss should get in. To me, when I look at the four SEC teams in contention, let's just assume Texas gets in because I think they're going to beat A&M, and then there's no way they don't get in. You look at the four SEC teams, and again, I believe if you just gave me all the power and I just picked 12 teams, I want the 12 best teams that I think have the 12th, 11th, 10th, and 9th best chance to win it all. And I think Ole Miss is the top of the chart when you're talking about putting together 4 games in a row. Jackson Dart, a better defense. They get Trey Harris back. Like I think they have the best chance to rattle off 4 wins. Whereas Jalen Milroe and Bama or Carson Beck in Georgia, to me, they're never going to do it. Like they could beat anyone, but they're not going to put 4 games together. So I think Ole Miss is the most likely to do it out of those 4 teams. So I would put them in, and it's unfortunate for Tennessee. But again, you lost 2 games, and you lost to a bad Arkansas team, by the way.
Yeah, they've got the worst loss of all. Well, I guess Ole Miss lost to Kentucky too, but they've also got a lot of good wins and also just resume and eye test matter. But yeah, losing on the road to Arkansas in a game they had won, like all doubt would be removed. Tennessee would be in the SEC championship had they not lost that game. Absolutely. Assuming they don't lose to, Vandy or whomever. So,
right.
Zach, where can people follow you? Where can they find your work, bud?
Oh, shoot, anywhere. Menace to Sports on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Twitter, and everywhere. Instagram, social media, all that.
Good stuff, man. I appreciate you for taking some time and chatting. We'll talk to you soon, bud.
Sounds good, man. I appreciate it.